We're going to bring up Dawn to sing now, y'all, so she can stop heckling. Yeah.
One. Two.
Oh, yes, the last
One.
You count it off. Jesus Christ.
Hold me close and hold me fast. The magic spell you cast. This is love beyond rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs. And though I close my eyes, I see love beyond rose. When you press me to your heart, I'm in a world apart. A world where roses bloom. And when we speak, angels sing from above. Everyday words turn into love songs. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be love beyond rules. Il me paraît tout bas. Je vois la vie en rose. Il m'a dit d'amour, d'amour de tous les jours. Et ça me fait quelque chose. Il est entré dans mon cœur une part de bonheur dont je connais le cause. C'est lui pour moi, moi pour lui dans la vie. Il me dit, la j'irai pour la vie. Que je l'aperçois, alors je sens en moi mon cœur qui bat. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be love beyond
And then, I got the blues.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get the blues with the rain.
Wait, can I just say something really quick though?
What that one, baby?
Paul Sanchez rhymed carrot with embarrassed. earlier, so-
Tom Petty did, but
Can we just recognize that moment? Carrots and embarrassed. My life changed. My life changed in that moment. All sorts of possibilities were open to me in that moment. I just want you to know.
glad I could be there for you.
Yes,
then.
thank you.
Do you want to take maybe at the last date at the Be Natural? Remember that?
Just be natural.
Yeah, that part. That,
What is
the
camping?
end.
The singer.
I don't know if I could.
Okay,
You
we'll
can.
give it a shot. We'll give it a shot. The last date.
What's the first chord?
Okay.
Let's make it
I get the blues when it rains. The first chord is flat.
Okay, then to the beat, right?
This will be, yeah, that's right, that weird sort of beat. Yeah, that would have done that back to B flat, right?
Okay.
Here we go. A one, a two, a 1, 2, 3.
falls on my window pane always reminds me of the tears I shed in vain. I get the blues when it rains.
I can't lose when it rains.
Each little drop that falls on my window pane always reminds me of the tears I shed in vain. Shine on me once again. It rained when I met you, and it rained when I lost you. That's why it's get the blues.
That's what we call singing. They ain't just singing, that's singing with an A. What about you? You gonna do for the rest of my life?
Wait, no, what are you gonna do? Foot of Canal Street?
Well, yeah, we're gonna do that, but we gotta work our way towards it. It's the mighty climax of the way Heisen wants it. You know. We did work on that. Which one?
Even your dad knows.
I don't know that one.
Like,
Your guitar player didn't show up?
trying to
Good bastard.
Hey, Shifty Victor.
Where's Shifty Victor?
Shifty
What an awesome name.
I name everyone.
Shifty Victor. Do you remember,
Devil in the Deep Blue Sea?
I do remember naming him Shifty Victor.
Do you remember Devil in the Deep Blue Sea?
Oh, now I want to punch you in the neck so
Wow, man, that's a tough audience member, I'm just saying. I haven't been threatened to be punched in the neck since the New Wave days.
You? I will be a nice punch.
I can't do charts.
Come on.
Crazy
Try just.
Can you read it?
Shifty? You can read that on mandolin.
Sure.
Oh, you got your hand in
Yeah.
Shifty.
We'll play for 2 weeks. Let's see how it goes.
Do you play guitar?
A little bit.
Shifty, man. I can't get a straight answer out of the cat.
Play bass, that's my straight.
Okay, there he is.
All the tips you need to know about women.
Oh, I jumped up in my shit.
Just play the top.
Try to pick on Shifty, he's there, man. He knows how to stand up for himself.
He
Oh,
should,
Shifty
come on.
for nothing.
You're the devil in deep
I
sea.
hate all of you right now.
Oh, so that's why you're mad, because he's asking for a song you sing.
Yes, I do want you back.
I didn't get that part. I didn't understand.
You're
Ready,
such
Bootsy?
a liar.
I didn't know that's what he was
Try the
doing.
last
You get your ass
last eight.
back up here
What
and
am I
just
doing?
fake drum do
Bye,
something.
Paul.
Okay, I'll fix it.
No, it's the same as violin.
Don't try to call me.
Oh, that's good.
1, 2, 3, go.
I don't want you, but I'd hate to lose you. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue sea. I forgive you, but I can't forget you. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue sea. I wanna cross you off my list, but when you're knocking at my door, fate seems to give my heart a twist, and I come running back for more. I should hate you, but I guess I love you. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Like a minute. Come on, you.
Nice.
I ought to cross you off my list, but when you're knocking at my door, fate seems to give my heart a twist, and I come running back for more. I should hate you, but I guess I love you. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue sea. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue sea. You've got me in between the devil and the deep blue. I have so much power, right? See.
I got the peaches, y'all. I have a new song I'm working on right now called The Angry Chanteuse. Tell you the truth about the angry Chanteuse. She got red hair, and it ain't fair when a man sees a woman who looks so rare. You put up with an angry Chanteuse. She can sing and she can dance, and her husband, he took a chance that she wouldn't be too much to him to use her, the angry Chanteuse. Well, the fellas know that she ain't just for show. Well, if you get angry, you just better know there ain't gonna be no truce with the angry Chanteuse. No truce with the angry Chanteuse. You can laugh, you can cry, you can spit or cough, and she'll still tell you to fuck off. The angry Chanteuse, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, why wait to write it? Let's just do it now.
Yeah, we got it. You recorded that? That's awesome. It's in G? Okay, we got it.
Yeah, we got it.
Oh, great.
Do we have a theme song?
She's got a theme song. You're in trouble, man. I guess you knew that already, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew it for 10 years.
Yeah, yes.
That's pretty great.
We've known each other for so long.
To be continued.
Oh, to be continued.
Yeah, what else were you thinking?
Oh, yeah, the Andy song,
Eddie's song.
Andy singing their song.
Andy. Oh, yeah. You gonna do one?
So yeah, I'll do yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Andy covers a couple of my songs, and this is one of them. So please, no, I'm sorry, not Andy. Vaught Overstreet, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
I'm having sex with that man later.
I guess I need to change my class.
We've been married for 10 years.
You just disappointed 4 people in the room. I don't care. No, I love you from your head to your toes. I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life. I don't care who sees. I'd be happy to get on my knees and say I love you for the rest of my life. Well, the silence is gold, baby. I'll hold your hand, but I'm having and holding the best that I can. I don't care who believes. I'd be happy to get on my knees and say I love you for the rest of my life. Come on, shake it. Well, this silence is golden, baby. I'm a poor, poor man. But I'm having and holding the best that I can. Yeah, I don't care who believes. I love you and you love me. I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life. Well, I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life. Yeah, I'm gonna love you for the rest of my
Ron the Villain's covering one of my songs. He sings the crap out of it, too.
He lets us cover his
That's because
song.
he loves his wife and he sings it with great gusto like a man in love. This is another song I wrote with my friend Coleman Decay. He read this New York Times best-selling book called 9 Lives a few years ago, and it was about New Orleans between Hurricane Betsy when we first flooded and Hurricane Katrina when we flooded again, 1965, 2005. But it wasn't about the storms or the floods. It was about what happens between the storms, which is life. And it was a really great experience. I got to write 40 years of New Orleans history in music and song. And one of the songs was, when the Katrina happened, the city was underwater for over 2 months. It just sat there, and it left chemicals and lead and poison all over the ground. You couldn't bring the elementary school kids back or the little kids back because the ground was poisoned and the schools were flooded. But the high school kids really wanted to come home and get their diploma. is the one way they knew they could get out of New Orleans, find a new life. So they came back, but a lot of the schools had flooded too, so they had to condense all the high schools down to a few for the kids that had come back. And these kids came back without their parents because the parents had been shipped to every red state in the country that needed minimum wage workers. They were trying to save enough money to come back and rebuild, so they sent their teenage kids to live in FEMA trailers by themselves, which we found out later were glued together with formaldehyde that would poison your lungs. And they were living in neighborhoods that didn't have power. The drug dealers were already back, but the families weren't, so they were dodging them, dodging the troubles of the street, trying to get that diploma. Now, New Orleans, being in a marching band, that's cooler than being in a football team. And elsewhere in the country, like the football team's a star. New Orleans marching band's a star. Because by the time a kid's 5 years old, he's already marching in the second lines with his family. By the time he's in elementary school and high school, he's playing on the streets, outside the clubs he's too young to get into, making some money outside the clubs. And by the time he graduates, boom, he's working. He's a professional musician. So marching band's very important in New Orleans. And these kids came back to be in this marching band. And to make some extra coin, they did what teenagers had been doing for a long time in New Orleans. They were playing outside the clubs on Bourbon Street. Only now the city was empty of everything except for National Guardsmen and first responders, volunteers. And that's who they were playing for when a documentary film crew came up and stuck a camera in this 16-year-old boy's face. And they said, "How you doing after the flood?" And this young man looked right at that camera. He said, "Me? I'm in the right now, trying to get to the not yet." And I said, "Yeah," that's what I said too. Whoa, though, yeah, make that into a song when I heard that line. So we were writing it. And we were pretty close in how we were doing a second line song, but I took it over to my friend John Boutte. I said, "What do you think?" And John said, "Well, baby, you understand second line music, it came from gospel music, only they can't say that because it's nasty, second line. So you got to leave a space for the hallelujah. You can't sing it, but you got to leave a space. So on that chorus, you got to go, well, the music was always there to help. Hallelujah, music was always..." You can't sing it, but you got to leave a space. So we wrote the song, and we called up the band leader who had guided these kids through high school, and we said we'd written this song out of the book. And he said that, well, that the young man, Brandon Franklin, had graduated, gotten his degree that he wanted so badly. He'd in fact gone on to become his assistant band leader. And 2 weeks before we wrote the song, he was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting he didn't have anything to do with. And I asked him if we should not go ahead and record it. He said, "No, definitely do." So he hired his friends who he'd been in high school with, who are now a grown-up brass band called the To Be Continued Brass Band. And they came in the studio for the soundtrack recording of 9 Lives, and they recorded this song for us. And I wanted them to know that the words we'd use were his words. And so I went out in the studio just before they did the vocal, and I said, "Hey, fellas, I want y'all to know these words here." And one of them cut me off. He said, "Yeah, these are Brandon's words. Let's just do this." And they did indeed, and I hope you hear it one day. But for right now, you got me with Vaudevillains playing second line LA style. 1, 2, 1. I'm the right now, trying to get to the not yet. We've all been through something we'd rather forget. All the tears I'd seen could have made a flood itself, but the music was always there to help. I said the music was always there to help. Some of us never had a dance that was worth a damn. Wouldn't have been cutting up in the quarter late at night if we had. We fixed our broken trumpets, marched off of the street, telling each other, tell us you got to believe. Hey, everybody with a TBC, it was our dad, where there was no dad. The music taught us what life was about. We made a band where there was no band. Oh, music, we wouldn't be alive without you. I said music, we wouldn't be alive without you. a city of neglected and forgotten kids. Became sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, yes we did. Life is to be continued, now there ain't no doubt. For more music, we wouldn't be alive without ya. I said music, we wouldn't be alive without ya. I said music, we wouldn't be alive without ya. That was great, guys. They just listened to that on YouTube on the way over. That was pretty cool. We're going to do 2 more songs and then call it a night for the microphone part of the thing, but whiskey's ahead and late night jamming for anybody that's around. But this one that we didn't practice or nothing, but the chords are B flat minor to A flat to G flat to A flat to B flat minor. Same 3 chords over and over again. You got that? B flat minor, A flat, G flat, A flat, B flat minor. I learned this song when after the flood I made friends with a young trumpet player who's one of the finest rappers and trumpet players and producers and jazz artists in New Orleans. Lead singer of Galactic these days, playing stadiums. But when I met him, he got taken with rock and roll, and he called me one day. He said, Uncle Paul, we got to make us a record. I just saw Johnny Cash and Louis Armstrong on YouTube together. I said, great, what kind of record do you want to make? He said, well, I want to do old people's music like you like, and I'll sing it. And young people's music like I like, and you sing it. Now we recorded this like 7 years ago, so this was still young people's music then. I played this last year in Kansas City with an opening act that was 3 sisters, 11, 13, and 14. And the promoter said, oh, Paul plays songs by young songwriters too. And they said, yeah, who? I said, Kanye West. And the 11-year-old wrinkled her nose and went, we don't really listen to him. We think of him as the talented Kardashian. So here's a song by Kanye Kardashian, y'all. In the night I hear him talk, the coldest story ever told. Somewhere far along this road, he lost his soul to a woman so heartless. How can you be so heartless? Oh, how can you be so heartless? How can you be so cold as a winter wind when a breeze blows? Just remember that you're talking to me, though. You better watch the way you're talking to me. Oh, after all the things that we've been through, after all the things we got into, hey, I know some things you ain't told me. Yeah, I done some things, but that's not old me. Now you wanna pay me back, you're gonna show me. So you walk around like you don't know me. You got some new friends, you ain't the only. But in the end, we're still so lonely. In the night I hear him talk, the story ever told. Somewhere far along this road, he lost his soul to a woman so heartless. Can you be so heartless? Oh, can you be so heartless? Can you be so dark to evil, bringing out a side of me that I don't know? I decided we weren't gonna speak, so why we up 3 a.m. on the phone? How could you be so mad at me for? Man, I don't know, she's out and cold. I won't stop on mess for groove, cause I already know how this thing goes. Run and tell your friends that you're leaving me, say they don't see what you see in me. Wait a couple of months and you're gonna see, never find nobody better than me. In the night I hear him talk, the coldest story ever told. Somewhere far along this road, he lost his soul to a woman so heartless. How can you be so heartless? Oh, how can you be so heartless? Talk and talk and talk and talk, baby, let's just knock it off. They don't know what we've been through, they don't know about me and you. So I got something new to see. You just gonna keep hating me, we're just gonna be enemies. I know you can't believe I could just leave it wrong, and you can't make it right. I'm gonna take off tonight. Into the night I hear him talk, the coldest story ever told. Somewhere far along this road, he lost his soul to a woman so heartless. Can you be so heartless? Oh, how can you be so heartless? heart live. Just like we rehearsed it. Well, I'm going to ask Andy to sing this last song, y'all. He sings it with Vaude and the Villains, and it's a song of mine that I wrote a long time ago now with my friend John Boutte. John's one of the greatest singers alive. If you haven't heard him yet, look him up, Boutte. He's got a beautiful voice. He sings like Sam Cooke. He looks like Harry Belafonte, only he's about 5'1". When he tours in Italy, he's so tiny they call him Belafontini. That's true, I didn't make that up. And we found out when we got to be friends about 20 years ago that we were born a day apart and a year apart. And we had a lot in common, like we were both raised by a bunch of sisters. We'd both been raised as Catholics, and we'd both failed as Catholics in dramatic fashion. And we also had things that we weren't in common, being John's black and I'm not. And we were raised in a different part of the city. And when we were little boys, 9 years old, we could not have ridden on the same part of a city bus together because of segregation in the South. So we're comparing the differences and the similarities in our lives. And he pointed to a cemetery a couple blocks away, one of those above ground cemeteries you see in the movies in New Orleans. And he said, you know what, baby, my father's buried there. I said, man, that's one more thing we got in common. My daddy's buried across the street. And he smiled at me, he said, you know what, baby, black or white, we all gonna meet at the foot of Canal Street. I said, well, that's a natural fact. Let's go home and write that song. So we did. And I wanted it to be a song that could be played at somebody's second line funeral. Now, in case you've heard the term and you might not know what it means, I'm gonna tell you right quick. When somebody dies in the African American community, the family hires a brass band, all horns and drums, to play the body out of the church and on the way to the repast. And so, coming out of the church is a dirge, usually for something like Just a Closer Walk with Thee, or When the Saints Go Marching In. And when it gets to the street, the drummer kicks it in the high gear, from-tum-tum, from-tum-tum, from-tum-tum-tum. And everybody starts dancing. Now the first line is the family. They get to dance between the body and the casket because they paid for the band. The second line has to dance behind the casket, and that's anybody that's in the audience, that's anybody, that's you, baby. Come on up here and sing. That's what he's trying to tell you. It's easy, you'll figure it out. The second line is anybody who's in the church, but more importantly, anybody who is in the neighborhood that hears that beautiful, joyous music and wants to come help dance you over to the glory land. Because they honestly believe you're already sitting at the right hand of Jesus and we're left down here to work it out. It's not a sad funeral, it's a celebration of life. So we did that with this song, and when I sing it, I ask folks to sing along with the words, At the Foot of Canal Street. And I'm gonna give you 3 good reasons to sing along. One is, I just asked y'all politely, did I not? I was very polite about it, so they gotta give me credit for that. The other is, it's more fun to take part in life than to not. You see, like, let's just say Andy and Don were gonna come down and visit me at Mardi Gras. And then I had a costume waiting for them. There's room over here, baby. I had a costume on this side, though, away from the guitar neck. Let's say that Andy and Don were to come to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and I had a costume waiting for them. But they were like, I don't know if I want to dress up in a costume. Let's just go out. So we go out, we have mimosas, and we spend the day. And they call their friends back in LA, and they say, it was a great day. They had costumes on at 7:30 in the morning. They drank mimosas. Mardi Gras is so much fun. Or you put the costume on at 7 o'clock in the morning, have that mimosa, you spend the day in costume. You call your friends back in Los Angeles at the end of the day, and you say, I am Mardi Gras. More fun to take part in life than to not, and that's a good reason to sing along. But the best reason is the story I told y'all why John and I wrote the song. We wrote it for the ones that came before. And there's somebody in your life who helped you be the person that sat here so attentively all night. Think of that person and sing for them. And they can't be here with you anymore to sing, that's all right. You sing from the heart. They'll hear you. That's where they're always going to be alive for the rest of your life, right there. So we're going to walk it out of that church with a dirge, and then we'll kick it into the dancing part for the second line with the At the Foot of Canal Street. And these guys know it. You'll catch it in no time, baby. In fact, I'll show you right now so y'all can all join in the fun. It's going to go. I'll see you there at the foot of Canal Street. What will you wear? At the foot of Canal Street. What will the band be playing? At the foot of Canal Street. Will the people be singing? At the foot of Canal Street. You guys rock. All right. So it goes like this. So here comes a body out the church. That's right.
Don't waste your time feeling angry. And a moment is better with a smile. Feel your time has been wasted here for a while. I was standing at that crossroad. I was just across from the cross. I was waiting for that driver to take me to that heavenly house. And I'll see you there. What will you wear? Or will the band be playing? Or will the people be saying? Father lies on a grave. Gonna put on the golden crown at the foot of the street. Now when the living banks overflow and the streetcars leave today, when all is gone, the plantation's hallelujah, and the moon could rain. Oh, I'll be singing high ground when pops in the walk on. Gabriel making sacred sounds. I'll